Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking the history behind literally the single greatest sporting spectacle on Earth. I mean, think about this for a second. Every 4 years, the planet essentially stops spinning for one single month. Normal life goes on hold, schedules are completely cleared, and a collective global breath is taken. We're going to trace the fascinating journey of how this incredible global phenomenon was born, how it survived near extinction, and how it evolved into the absolute modern juggernaut we know today.
Now, to really wrap your head around the sheer gravity of the modern tournament, just think about the number 48. In the upcoming modern era, that represents 48 entire nations converging. We are talking about thousands of the most elite, highly trained athletes on the planet, supported by colossal logistical operations, and watched by billions, literally billions, of eyes all glued to their screens. It's a scale of human attention that's entirely unmatched by anything else in our society.
And you know what's crazy? All of that, the billions of viewers, the thousands of athletes, the decades of preparation, is entirely laser-focused on winning just one single thing. People dedicate their entire lives to the sport just for a fraction of a chance to hoist this glowing 18-karat gold trophy under the stadium lights for a few fleeting minutes. It's relatively small, but the weight of human ambition and national pride it carries is completely immeasurable. Section 1, 1930, the first tournament. So, to really appreciate today's colossal event, we have to look at its incredibly humble beginnings. This massive modern spectacle, it actually started simply as one man's dream. Jules Rimet, the president of FIFA at the time, had a grand vision. He wanted an international football competition independent of the Olympics. He basically willed this idea into existence, and because of his absolute determination, the very first World Cup finally kicked off in Uruguay back in 1930. But getting it off the ground was far from easy. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering contrast between then and now. Today, 48 teams fly on private jets to instant, global, high-definition broadcasts reaching billions. But back in 1930, they could only scrape together 13 teams. Many European nations flat out refused to go because getting to Uruguay meant a grueling, exhausting 2-week sea voyage across the Atlantic on a steamship. Actually, just picture trying to get today's elite, hyper-pampered athletes to spend 2 weeks seasick on a boat before a major final. No way. But hey, despite those immense logistical hurdles, the 1930 tournament was a massive success, and it ended with this legendary scoreline, 4-2. The host nation, Uruguay, stepping out onto the pitch in packed, uncovered stadiums, made history by defeating Argentina 4-2. In doing so, they etched their names into eternity as the ones to claim the very first title. The seed of global football had officially been planted. Section 2. Post-war resurrection and miracles. You know, the tournament's history reads a lot like a true hero's journey. After that 1930 inception, the world plunged into darkness in the 1940s. World War II forced a devastating 12-year pause on the tournament. The dream almost died right there. But then came the emotional whiplash of 1950, the resurrection. The beautiful game returned. And by 1958, the tournament wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, broadcasting globally and ushering in a golden era of unparalleled talent.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer unfathomable scale of the shock that happened during that 1950 resurrection. It's legendary. They literally call it the Maracanazo. The final match was held at the Maracanã Stadium in Brazil, with 200,000 Brazilian fans packed into that stadium, absolutely certain their home team would win. Uruguay shocked them all. They took the victory, plunging an entire nation into stunned silence. It proved that in this tournament, absolutely nothing is guaranteed.
But Brazil wouldn't have to wait long for redemption, and it arrived in the form of this incredible number, 17. Just 8 years later, in 1958, the world was introduced to a 17-year-old prodigy named Pelé. Think about what you were doing at 17. Pelé was dazzling the globe, weeping with joy on the pitch, and single-handedly launching Brazil into an era of unrivaled global dominance. He changed the way the world viewed the sport forever. Section 3. Iconic Eras and Controversies. As the decades rolled on, the formatting of the tournament evolved, the number of teams expanded, and the event became exactly what's described in this quote, an arena of raw drama. It was no longer just about who had the best tactics. It was a clash of cultures, of national identities, and of outsized personalities colliding on a pitch that the entire world was watching. Let's move to and see how this builds decade over decade. In 1966, England secures a deeply controversial victory. Then 1986 hits, and Diego Maradona delivers a performance of absolute controversial genius, famously slaloming through the entire English defense. In 1998, Zinedine Zidane scores legendary volleys to lead France to a spectacular home victory. And in 2002, Brazil redeemed themselves on the world stage to secure their legendary fifth star. Each decade escalated the global passion and the mythology of the sport.
Section 4. Modern greatness and looking forward.
So the crucial point is how the weight of all those past legends set the stage for the superstars of today. All of that historical weight culminated in 2022, in what is widely considered one of the greatest, most heart-stopping finals ever played. Lionel Messi finally hoisted the trophy into the air amidst golden confetti. He cemented his legacy by bringing the gold back to Argentina. It was a moment of ultimate global triumph that echoed all the way back to the battles fought in 1930. But the beautiful game never stops moving forward, right? For the 2026 expansion, we're scaling up to a massive format, sprawling across 3 entire host countries: Canada, Mexico, and the United States. We're talking about taking the event from a single nation's responsibility to a continent-wide celebration of the sport. Let's take a second to just absorb this final thematic contrast, because it is honestly staggering. On one side, we have the 1930 origins, just 13 teams playing in a handful of stadiums in a single South American country, largely ignored by Europe. On the other side, the 2026 future, 48 teams from every corner of the globe, sprawling across 3 massive North American nations, watched instantly by over half the world's population. The compounding growth is simply breathtaking. And that brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer, perfectly captured right here. The story of humanity unified by a ball. Because when you strip away the gold, the sponsorships, and the massive stadiums, what you're left with isn't just sports trivia. It is a shared human experience. It's the one time we all agree to put aside our differences, speak the exact same language for 90 minutes, and share in the joy and heartbreak together. So I want to turn it over to you and leave you with this question. What is your absolute favorite World Cup moment of all time? Was it Maradona's brilliance, Zidane's dominance, Messi's ultimate triumph, or maybe an underdog story we didn't even cover today? Think about that moment, reflect on the incredible history we just explored, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the incredible history of this beautiful game.